Welcome back to the Girl Out of Order podcast. You are in for such a treat today. I know I say that every time I have a guest, and it's because we only bring on amazing guests. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming a truly incredible pioneer in the area of midlife. That's right. We are going to be talking about how to reclaim midlife as the best time in your life. And today I have the privilege of welcoming to the Girl Out of Order podcast the incredible, the engaging Adrien Cotton. Adrien is a transformational wellness coach. She's a speaker and a creator of Master Menopause Now. And I'll tell you, as a perimenopause woman, I am leaning in because I want to grab hold of this time in my life. And I want you to be able to do the same and make it the best time in our life. Her Master Menopause Now is an online resource for perimenopausal and menopausal women. Adrien leverages, her holistic proprietary approach to help women feel renewed, have a renewed well-being, feel strong and confident in their beautiful bodies and in their overall lives. Listen, this woman's incredible. After serving in high leverage professional roles, including, listen to this, being one of the youngest communication directors in the United States House of Representatives, Adrien pivoted her career focus. And we are going to talk a lot about that because a lot of us in our lives, whether we're in technical midlife or whether we're just going through transitions and wondering, is this what it is all about? She's going to talk about how she pivoted her career focus. And now she helps clients capture the strength in all areas of their beautiful lives. She is an accomplished speaker, entrepreneur, corporate wellness educator, menopause expert, and wellness coach. Adrien is a proven success in designing and implementing an innovative wellness program. We all need what Adrien has to offer. So join me in welcoming the brilliant, the inspirational Adrien Cotton. Welcome to the Girl Out of Order podcast, my new friend, Adrien Cotton.
Thank you. It's awesome to see you again, girl.
Oh my gosh. If you've all heard me with my guests, you will probably already tell there's some familiarity. And it's because we don't just bring anybody on this podcast. We want to bring women on who are outstanding examples of what it means to live fully into your true identity, to know who you are, what you value, and to live lives of authenticity. And so when I have these conversations with our guests, usually I like to pick up friends along the way, and I count Adrien as one of my new friends.
I feel the same way, girl.
Oh, amazing. All right, Adrien. So you have a really unique message, and I've already teed it up for our listeners. But before we dive in, if you wouldn't mind, let me just do a quick shout out and just an invitation for people. If you love what we're doing here at Girl Out of Order and you love this podcast, do us a huge favor. Please get out there, give us a written review, follow us on Instagram. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm doing all the things. But what we really need you to do is leave us a 5-star written review because that's how we get our message out. That's how we find more Girls Out of Order like the amazing Adrien Cotton. So please do us that favor and help us grow this podcast. And then you get to meet my friends and you get more people that get to meet Adrien Cotton. So Adrien, we are going to dive right in because your message is so fascinating to me. And I just remember laughing through it. And you have a beautiful way of weaving really good, solid, life-changing truths with a sense of humor. And you're very self-deprecating. And I just want people to get to know you. So before we even go into your message, can you just tell our listeners who you are and what brought you to the Girl Out of Order podcast?
Oh, that always gets me choked up when I talk about who I am because I've worked a lot, as you have, on who I am. I am a woman who's true to myself. I am a woman of faith. Adrien is a person on her own, yet I'm also a mother of twin teenagers, and I am the wife of Bill Cotton. I am the owner of a movement, I call when I do a movement, to help women find strength in their bodies, in Even when we're going through an extraordinary change physiologically, biologically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. And my job in the world is to let women know it doesn't have to be a struggle. It actually is the best part of my life so far at 57 and a half years old.
Okay. And you guys have to watch this on YouTube so you can see two of the sexiest 50-something-year-old women, because honestly, sexy in your 50s has very little to do with our physical appearance. It's about the energy that we radiate out into this universe. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. 100%. This is just a shell of
Yep.
who we are.
It's a beautiful shell, and it's a shell we need to take care of, but it isn't what defines us, right?
For sure.
So you've had a super interesting background, and I gave people kind of the high level overview of like, oh, you did this in the House of Representatives. But if you could just, one of the things I wanted to highlight for our listeners before we dive into the body and health work that you do is the fact that you became so self-aware that you pivoted in ways that probably the world would say, oh, danger, don't do that. So can you just tell our listeners a little bit about your background and your evolution that led you to where you are so that you're sitting on the other side of the screen with me?
Absolutely. So I am a Southern California girl, born and bred. Gets me choked up again. And that it takes me to where my first career, and now I'm in my second, and I'm planning on it being my last. And my first career, after I grew up in Southern California, I got my undergraduate degree in Northern California. We are all California, my family. And I wanted to get involved in politics and government. I had a little sprinkling of a scholarship program out here in DC as a high school junior. I had a really wonderful teacher. Yay, shout out to teachers out there who touch our lives. Still, Mr. Ebby is the reason I'm here. So he recommended me for a scholarship here at Georgetown, where I took all history and government courses for a summer. I fell in love with the city. I fell in love with a lot of other things. And I decided this is where I wanted to be. So I went to undergraduate. I graduated from high school, went to the Bay Area, and then I worked in politics, public affairs, campaigns, government policy for about 17 years. And I thought, because of my family upbringing, that my job was to climb and strive and earn and be quote unquote successful. And success back then is now different than how I define success now. However, I decided after I had reached a very high position in corporate communications, I was the head at 33. I was the head of 63 people in a public affairs department.
Okay,
Yes.
mic drop moment there. At how old?
33. Yeah.
Okay, well, the Bible says don't look down on them because of their youth, but I have to, not but, and that's pretty impressive.
It was a lot. And I realized it was not what I really wanted. So bring me back to my roots in Southern California. And I had grown up as an athlete. I'm the fourth of four. My brother already had two sisters. When I came along, he was devastated that I was again a girl. And so he turned me into a tomboy. So I spent a lot of time outdoors playing sports and I did grow up close to the beach. So I spent a lot of time on the beach. And I had a sense of responsibility, I feel, to my body, that I'm given this one body in life. This is my philosophy, one of mine. And it is my job to keep my body well. And so I noticed out here in Washington that wasn't really the case for people. This was the late 80s. And campaign life and hill life and association life. I was living the dream and watching people not be healthy, myself included. So I was drinking quite a bit. I was smoking. I probably prepared like 2% of my meals for about 5 years. All of them were eaten out. So I realized, and got no sleep. So I realized that I really wanted to pivot to something different and help others. So I closed the doors to that chapter of my life. My husband fully supported me, and I opened up a strength training gym in our little town of Alexandria, the first female-owned strength training gym.
Yes, I love that. As one athlete to another, and growing up in the 80s, I don't know if we talked about this, but I used to go to the YMCA in the 80s because I wanted to get a college scholarship to run, and I would go down into the weight room. Did we talk about this? I can't remember.
You're a college athlete. You're a D1 athlete.
Yeah, but it was so weird back then because I would go down there and I wanted to do free weights because that's what I had a coach who really believed in me. But I would walk into this weight room and it was like I had 4 heads, although I'm sure that's not why all of the men were looking at me, but it was like, what is she doing in here? But at the same time, they're like, ooh, she's in here. And it was really confusing.
Right.
And it was disorienting. So to hear that there was a female-owned strength gym in the 80s, I would have given anything for that.
Yeah, I'm pretty passionate about women being powerful and strong, physically,
Yes.
emotionally, spiritually, as you know. So I started this gym, and over the course of, again, another 15 years, we saw a lot of people in power, and in Washington lexicon, powerful people, either the person in the seat or the folks who are close to the person in the seat. In Washington, value is seen oftentimes with how close you are to power. So I had a lot of people close to power coming to my doors, and they really appreciated this philosophy of really get your body strong, treat your body well, and you'll be better at what you do for a living.
Okay, wait a minute. So you had people around you that were telling you to get your body strong, or is that what you started to figure out?
That's what we were doing. Yeah. So we really had a philosophy to look at the whole picture and really to change. And this is my big message: change the narrative about what exercise is. Change the narrative about lifting weight. Change the narrative about what it will do beyond aesthetics.
Yes.
Beyond how it's going to make you look in your suit or on your whatever. So it was an incredible journey. I loved every minute of it, most minutes of it. And then decided that after I experienced my own perimenopause experience, which I call my perimenopause prison, because I had many of the symptoms of perimenopause, and it was pretty rough. It was a very rough period for me. And I realized I wasn't alone. So as I continued owning the gym and I worked with women around my age in their early to mid 40s, they too were struggling to feel better in their bodies and really continuing to compare themselves to their 20-year-old self.
Right. So much comparison goes on, especially as we age, because there's as it is with most female anything, right? We don't get the money, we don't get the research, we don't get the focus. And so a lot of times we're left to try to figure it out on our own, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Can you name some of those symptoms for our listeners? Yeah. Maybe they're in it, maybe they're not, but I think it would be really helpful to just maybe bullet point like, hey, these are the things that we're going, because it's different for every woman, which is also part of the hard thing to identify perimenopause. What's perimenopause? What's me going through, maybe a marital breakdown or my kids getting older? Like it's really hard to grasp onto that. So tell us a little bit about what symptoms you were experiencing and the women at your gym are experiencing, so people feel less alone.
So I want to first define what perimenopause is, if that's okay with you.
Yes, absolutely.
So perimenopause is the phase where we're beginning to transition into menopause. Menopause is the transition phase.
Got it.
Menopause means you have not had a period for 12 consecutive months. Perimenopause can last for up to 7 to 10 years.
Okay, that's just mean. I'm sorry. I couldn't help myself.
And some women have no symptoms that they can feel. But I can tell you this much. There are 4 different phases of it. And the symptoms vary from heavier bleeding or lighter and not really predictable. Weight gain for no reason at all. It's just hanging out around your hips and your belly, sleep deprivation and disturbance.
Oh, that can lead to so many problems.
Weight gain. And higher stress, higher anxiety, less ability to bounce back from the little stressors, more reactivity, more moodiness.
Yes.
Histamine issues, allergies.
Really? Wait, whoa. Allergies?
Allergies, histamines are impacted. Every organ in our body has estrogen receptors. So perimenopause is not just menopause is not just a sexual thing. It is a whole body changing more than it did when you experienced puberty.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that is so my symptoms were, and I also had vaginal dryness, which showed itself in all kinds of fun ways, but it's not fun.
No.
And you don't know what to do with it, especially something like vaginal dryness. I was even afraid to talk to my female OBGYN about it.
You were or you were not?
I was afraid.
Really?
It was embarrassing. It was shameful. We don't talk about those things. My mom's generation didn't talk about, my mom didn't teach me about this, Question, we didn't talk about these issues because that meant you were getting old. Right. So that's another one of my big messages is it's not necessarily, we don't want to equate aging with a bad thing. Aging is a really beautiful part of our life.
Right.
Right. So we have all these symptoms. We go to our OBGYN, and as some of your listeners may or may not know, OBGYN doctors are not taught about menopause. They are taught about how to help you get you pregnant or prevent you from getting pregnant and then delivering babies. They are not trained. There's a lot of movement now. It's really exciting time because there's a lot of movement, legislation on the Hill about helping now medical schools train their OBGYN students to help women through both.
Okay, I just can't right now. Like, you can probably see my face. If you're on YouTube, you'll see my face. This is my WTF face. Like, honestly, we have such a short span of time where we are birthing children. Yes. And the majority of our life, we're not. And so it's insane to me that somebody who is into, because it's not just OB, it's OB gynecology. Yes. Part of gynecology is all of the things that shocks the conscience. It really shocks the conscience.
Yes. So one of the most commonly reported symptom is hot flashes.
Correct. Yes.
75% of women
right here
experience hot flashes. I had night sweats, but hot flashes are very common. Our vasomotor, the part of our brain that controls our temperature, is also going through a change, and we cannot weather temperature changes as well.
Right.
So there's a lot going on with our body. It's changing drastically. And instead of associating perimenopause and menopause as a negative phase of our lives, I beg to differ. I'm stronger. I'm definitely wiser. We've had this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We need to really change our mindset about what's going on with our bodies. But first, we have to be aware of them.
Okay, 100%. I just cannot wait for the day when we meet in person, because I know that we're going to, and we're going to not just hug, but we're going to do one of those weird, embarrass our kids hugs where we hug and jump up and down and scream, because I just feel so connected to you, because I feel like we are so similar minded. We're both physically strong. We're both athletes. We're both committed to women, and we're both all about embracing our stage of life. This is not an easy stage of life, but I got to go on to say, I had 4 kids in 6 years. I know a shitty, not easy stage of life, right? I had a miscarriage. I had struggles in my marriage. We can sit here and cast our stage of life, whatever it might be, in whatever light we want. And what I love about you is this positivity and this body confidence that you give off. We need to look at our body, call her, name her, embrace her, love her, and recognize that God created our bodies. Oh, do you see what's happening right now? What
that happens to me sometimes.
If you're on YouTube, I literally just set off some freaking fireworks. I am dying. I'm talking about menopause, and my screen came off fireworks.
Fire.
That was a hot flash. That's what that was. It's fine.
I get those emojis too, like this, all of a sudden.
Oh, well, we're going to do these. I think I could even do hearts if I wanted to. Oh my gosh, it just worked. You guys have to watch us on YouTube, because she literally just gave me fireworks right back. I'm sorry, Adrien. I didn't mean to take you off script. I told you we were going to go where the spirit led us.
I love it. No, we've got to do this. And this is the way conversation should happen between every woman about this period, no pun, of your lives.
Oh gosh, that was awesome. You have to have a million of those jokes too. I mean, come on. Okay, can I get your opinion on something? And then I want you to dive into your wellness wheel, because it's so important. But it's interesting that we're having this conversation right now, because I 2 weeks ago or so, I've been having a lot of really bad tightness down in, the area, the feminine.
Yep.
We'll just call it a uterus because we're okay talking about uteruses, vaginas,
are.
all the things here on
are.
Girl Out of Order.
You should
Not a
be.
big deal. Absolutely. It's just a thing. And so I went to my OB, and turns out, listen to this. And if you're on YouTube, you'll see the size. I have 2 10-centimeter fibroids attached to my uterus. I mean, we're talking like giant, slow pitch softball size. Two of them. We've actually decided we've named them Bianca and Betty because they're the twin bitches that are causing a lot of problems. My point is not to share necessarily my journey, but it's the medical advice I'm getting that I really would love for you to speak on as somebody who is really passionate about the female changes and helping us fully embrace our bodies. I'm actually going to see an oncologist on Tuesday, and I don't even know why, because fibroids are 99% benign, but they're like, well, I want the oncologist to do the hysterectomy, and while she's in there, just take out your ovaries. And I'm sitting here thinking, what is happening? Like, what? And then so I asked her why. I said, can't you just remove the fibroids? And here's the advice she gave me. And this is why I want to have your opinion on it. I'm waiting to see your face. I was told, not by her, but also by my father-in-law and mother-in-law, both retired medical professionals, just take the uterus out, just take the ovaries out. You don't need them anyway. And I know, come on, just give me their face. But it was more than that. They're like, oh, well, they're cancer-causing organs. Like, I'm sorry. There's no way that my ovaries and my uterus are more cancer-causing than my pancreas, my gallbladder,
anything else.
And I'm sitting here thinking, so my medical approach is like, while you're in there, just take out whatever I don't need. So I would like you to remove my gallbladder, my spleen, a lung, a kidney, because honestly, do we really need it anyway? I mean, think about all the weight I'll lose, Adrien.
I know, right?
What in the hell is going on? Is it just that the female body is just that unimportant in the medical profession that they're like, oh, just take it out anyway, even though there's no medical reason to do so? Maybe you don't have to speak on that, but the timing, it was just like, I got to ask Adrien. I got to ask.
I'm always a big fan of, of scoping it out. And I think that obviously you definitely would be helping yourself if you talk to a menopause specialist.
Right.
Because I have a sense.
Do you know any?
I know many.
Talking to one.
Yes. But actually a doctor who is a menopause specialist. So you have doctors and some professions who actually become even more schooled in menopause, and they're called menopause specialists.
And that's an OBGYN would be a menopause specialist?
It's common for instance, OB, but it could be other professionals too, nurses, NAMS, National Association of Menopause Specialists.org.
I'm writing this down.
Please meet with one or two before you take your uterus out.
Like, honestly, my mother-in-law says, well, take your ovaries out. You're going to go through menopause anyway. And this is what I wanted to talk to you about, because here's the thing. Yes, we're going to go through menopause, but why would I want to shock my system into instantaneous menopause? Why wouldn't I want my body to do what she's designed to do in her freaking time?
Yes, exactly. I think you know.
I do
know. Need to tell you. And this is another message for women. Your gut is telling you the right thing. You know it.
Okay, so let's talk about that. This is what I want to do. I want you to empower our listeners to listen to the signals of their beautiful bodies. So when you work with, again, look at that timing of my fireworks. I'm literally blown away right now. Okay. How do you advise? So a woman comes to talk to you. Do you consider yourself a menopause specialist?
No, I'm not a menopause specialist because I don't have the extra certification that they do. It's mostly for doctors and medical professionals.
Okay. Understood.
Coach.
You're a menopause coach.
I would scope out to a menopause specialist, and I do have a number that I refer folks to.
Perfect.
So your question is, what was the question about?
Let me ask it a different way.
Inside her body or not living inside her body?
I just got so excited. I bumbled through the question, and I do this sometimes in court as an attorney, and I'm like, I'm going to rephrase. So give me a moment so I can give my sweet guest here an actual clear question. My question is, when you're working with a woman who's going through menopause, and she comes to you and she says, I just want this over. How do I speed this up? How do I dwell within this body that I feel like I'm at war with? How do you advise her? Like, what is your approach? How do you help women through this, which is oftentimes a very traumatizing time if they don't
It's
have the
very
support?
traumatizing if they do
Yeah.
not have support, and oftentimes they're afraid to talk to their partner about it.
Oh, yes.
So I have two answers. One is that I really beg of you and encourage women to start living inside your body.
Tell me about
We
that.
tend to live outside our bodies. We go throughout our day, we
Mm.
take things for granted. We use, our hands, our arms, and legs. We use our body in so many ways to serve the world and those around us. And yet we're really not doing a check-in. I
Mm.
cannot tell you how many times women who come to work with me when they're already in menopause. So you
Hmm.
go through perimenopause, and when you're in menopause, that means you've gone through 12 months of consecutive no period.
Right.
So you're in menopause, and many women do not know when they stopped, when they had their last period.
Oh,
And
guilty.
yes, right?
Guilty.
Paying attention to this is really important. And it would
Hmm.
be really important for your menopause specialist to know, how long has it been? And let's see, I mean, sometimes they'll check your hormones, sometimes they'll do some labs.
Hmm.
Oftentimes, a menopause specialist will just say, how are you feeling? They call it brain, not blood. How are you feeling?
Mm.
Because if you're feeling these things, if you're feeling anxious, which is very common in perimenopause and
Yes.
menopause, your
Oh,
brain's going through a massive change. Your brain is very anxious. If you're experiencing hot flashes, if you've got the weight gain, if you've got some of these other issues, they'll likely have some sense of your needs without even doing labs,
really?
particularly if you know your cycle. So get
Hmm.
to know your cycle. And then, as you know, my practice is a holistic practice. I
Hmm.
believe that our experience for perimenopause and menopause will be much more fulfilling if we approach our health and our wellness holistically. And what do I mean by that? I mean, yes, diet and exercise are really, really important, but they are not the only thing we need to be paying attention to now that we're in what we call midlife. And we'll talk about midlife in a minute. We need to pay attention to our sleep. So much is going on with our bodies and our brains, notably, when we're asleep. More activity is going on in our brain when we are asleep than when we are awake. We need our sleep. Number two is pay attention to your stress and find ways now, as you're approaching perimenopause. And if you're already in it, find your top job, from my perspective, is to figure out how to get on top of your stress. Find
Mm.
the root of it. We've talked about this. Get to the root of it and find your tools that
Hmm.
you can get to a space where the little tiny stressors are really little tiny stressors. Because so often we can have these little tiny stressors, I call them the layer cake of stress. And they pile up and they pile up and they pile up. And then a little tiny stressor like construction on your traffic on your way to work, and you blow.
I want to pause real second because I really think it's important that I highlight something because on the Girl Out of Order podcast, in my identity mastermind that I lead, we talk a lot about stacking, like stacking your proofs, right? People stack their doubts so much more than they stack their proofs. So when we are building our identity or reclaiming our identity or just rediscovering who we are, maybe we're reinventing who we are. We talk a lot about the stacking effect of the new actions and beliefs that we start to employ. And I think a lot about what you just said is another stacking that we need to pay attention to. It's stacking our stresses because a
Yes.
lot of times they are small. And so we just brush them off. Oh, I had a bad report at the doctor. Well, that's a big stress, but I got a cavity or I had an argument with my teenager. Hello, my life. And
Right.
we don't really acknowledge the impact they have on our body. And then, like you said, after a while, the stacking effect of
Yes.
those stressors, it's not the little stress that makes you blow. It's that you weren't paying attention to what was going on underneath the surface. And so when the weed sprouts, you're like, where'd the weed come from? Well, you've
Right.
been planting that shit for the last 12 months and you
Exactly.
just weren't paying attention. Is that what
Exactly.
you're talking about?
Is exactly what I'm talking about. And while we cannot see the stresses, the impact of the stress on our brain because it's beneath our skin, I can
Mm-hmm.
assure you it is happening. And our bodies were not built for this chronic level of stress. They were not built for this. Primal man
Yes.
did not have this level of stress.
Mm.
Cortisol, our stress hormone, is intended to be high when we wake up in the morning. And as we go through the day, it's supposed to be declining. Well, for most of us, it is not. It is
Mm.
chronically high. That leads to weight gain. That leads to sleep issues. That leads to all kinds of issues with, are you going to motivate it to exercise? Because exercise
Mm-hmm.
is medicine. Are you going to be motivated to fuel your body with foods that you know are going to fuel your passion? Probably not. If you're stressed, you're not sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time to look at your health in a very holistic way and try as best you can to buck the conventional wisdoms that are sitting on your Instagram feed about how you're going to get fit and how you're going to count these calories or these macros and you're going to burn this and you're going to wear this device. And, that was great for your 20s and 30s.
Mm.
Life, it's a completely different game.
Girl, preach. I just was up at University of Wisconsin La Crosse helping my two daughters move in with their partners. And all I have to say is moving your college kids is for the young. That's some rough business.
Is it?
This 52-year-old had to stop at Walgreens on the way home and make sure she had some ibuprofen. So, life, it's rough. And what is also true is it's normal and it's natural. And if you support your body and you do so, like I'm doing this, I do this exercise. I wouldn't say it's exercise, but it's called Egoscue. Have you ever heard of Egoscue?
No, I haven't.
Oh
What
my
is it?
gosh, I'm going to have to send you a link to it. And I'm going to put Egoscue in the show notes, sisters, because it's a revolutionary way of reorienting your entire structure of your body and it's like, it's not chiropractic. I'm not doing a really good job of explaining it or selling it here, but I do this Egoscue where it's like these simple exercises that recenters our body. It's all just about recognizing that life puts stressors on our body and
Yes.
we actually don't have to do massive shifts to realign our bodies.
Right.
So what do you do? See,
You go to my
my screen loved that comment. So what do you do to help women? Like just give us some examples of ways that you help women who are either perimenopause or menopausal fall in love with this stage of life, fall in love with midlife, embrace it.
Yeah. So one of the bigger ways that I do this is to help them get strong physically,
Okay.
to be unafraid to lift weight or to do resistance training. Oftentimes women have a pejorative feeling, a negative feeling about exercise that could stem from something on the playground when they were 12. And it carries forward until, so-and-so Susan is 52. So we talk about exercise as movement. So I believe we need to move through our day. We should be getting away, I'm not alone, from our tech as often as we possibly can. And I believe that when women can get strong and perform particular kinds of strength training movements, it is so gratifying. And by the way, it's also incredibly good for your brain, your body, everything. There's like a cacophony symphony going on in your body when you lift weight. So I believe number
Yes.
one, women should get strong and stop being afraid of weights. No, you're not going to get bulky.
And so
Don't,
what if you do? Sorry.
I know. It's
It's
this
crazy
body
that the women
confidence.
think that. I don't understand
Our
that.
our generation really has done a number on ourselves with regard to our body, for sure.
Mm.
The second thing I say is to really be selfish. And I really want this time of life to be a time when you're not trying to be something for somebody else. It's
Mm.
time. You're halfway. And I don't have a number associated with midlife. And for anyone who's interested in this whole concept of midlife, Brené Brown has opened
Mm.
up all of our eyes to what midlife really is. And how she describes it is it's just a time for you to say, okay, I'm enough. I'm
Mm-hmm.
enough. And the rest of my life, I'm going to look at my days as if I'm enough and I'm not trying to be something for somebody else. I'm going to live my life for me. And so that means I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to get my 7 to 9 hours of sleep. I am. I'm going to take my Epsom salt baths, which will help your sleep. I'm going to take my little breaks through the day for stress resilience. Take a walk outside for 3 minutes. You can handle 3 minutes. And really, when it comes to food, the work I do with women is I add. So my program is an addition program. not a scarcity and subtracting sugar. So most diets, which the fitness industry knows don't work, will have you shrinking. They will have you cut calories, cut this, that, cut this, cut that, cut dairy, cut sugar, cut calories, cut this, cut that, or eat this kind of food, not that. In our program, the only thing we do is add.
Tell me what you mean by that.
Most of the time, women don't eat enough. Most of the time, I will hear a woman describe what she has eaten for the past 3 days. And I will say the reason why you are gaining weight is because your body is in fat absorption mode. Because metabolism is slowed down. And so your body is in shock. It's in trauma. It needs food.
And how is that received typically by women that you work with?
Oh, not well. Shocking. Shocking, because your Instagram feed's telling you completely different, and your colleague at the office is telling you something different, and your mother and your sister and your book club friend is telling you something different. I'm telling you, we are starving ourselves of a lot of things, and one of them I think is food, because that's what we thought we were supposed to do when we were 20 and 30. And a 20 and 30-year-old, that's fine. But once you hit 35, 40, it's time to feed. It's time to eat and not associate food as something that's negative.
Yes. Well, and it's also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not just eat more. Like, we do have to be wise about what we take into our body. But a lot of times we're so focused on, if I just eat less, I'll weigh less. If I weigh less, I'll love myself more. And that just is, pardon my language, that's bullshit.
It is complete. But that's the messages that you and I have, our generation of women have been listening to since the day we could understand human language. We have been fed this message that more people will like you, you will be more successful because you will be beautiful and skinny.
Right. So move our bodies. We talk a lot about that at Girl Out of Order. Physiology first, how you carry your body, how you move your body, how you stand, how you breathe, how you hold your shoulders. If your head up, head down, like physiology, we change that, opens up doors inside of us.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What's next?
And don't forget about who you connect with.
What does that mean?
We are the average. We are the result of the 5 people we spend the most time with. It's not my quote. It's a guy, Jim Rohn. His quote is, "We really are." So who are you hanging out with? Are they also in a place of life where they want to feed their wellness? Are they in a place of positivity and of not of scarcity, but abundance? Who are you hanging out with? Who are you listening to? That has a big impact on your life and on your wellness.
And I think we might have even talked about this, but I talk about this a lot. And if you've listened to Girl Out of Order for any length of time, you know that I am all about build your tribe. Build your tribe. Become the kind of woman that you want to draw to you, and she is going to start to appear. But think and truly, but we got to know ourselves. And so a lot of things I'm hearing is so familiar, and the themes and the passion of why I even started Girl Out of Order is because I want to build a community of women that are willing to step fully into who they truly are and embrace their unique selves, to stop shrinking down, to stop contorting themselves, stop playing small. But to do that, you have to know who you are. Sometimes we have to do a reckoning, but a lot of times when we get to know our beautiful selves, we're like, damn, I would pick her out of a crowd.
Right.
And then you form your tribe. So I'm all in on the building your tribe and finding the people that are going where you're going and the kind of women you want to have more of you inside.
Exactly.
I love that.
Those are tough decisions to make. I mean, we've all made them. I think you've made them. I know I've made them. You have to say goodbye to certain relationships in your life.
And you can do it with love. That's what I want women to hear. I had a friend of mine recently. She was telling me, and this is extraordinary, this is unusual. She had to say goodbye to 8 friendships that were long-term friendships. It was a girl tribe, right? And I asked her, I said, was that tell me why that was necessary? And she gave me her really sound reasons. And it was like, I'm growing they're atrophying, and I can no longer reconcile their mindset with my mindset and where I want to be. And if I stay in that energy, then I'm assenting to not growing. And I told her, I said, how was that? It was painful.
Very
But she
hard.
said, but it was necessary. And the freedom that she feels by
Yes.
having the courage to do it. And she lovingly let them go. Their response, sisters, is not up to you. And it's not your fault. How
Right.
you handle it is the only thing you can control.
And the outcome, you're right. And because we don't need to worry about the outcome, about their response. You need to make decisions for you. It's time.
It goes back to that number 2 point you made about it's time to be selfish.
It's time to be selfish.
Because we've been told for so long that we are here as women to serve and procreate and die to ourselves. And I think, did we talk about our religious upbringing? I can't remember if we did or not. But in my adult life, joined a conservative church, and I was told I was an unsubmissive wife and I was too prideful. No, I just really wanted a big life. And it didn't mean that I was judging others, but there wasn't that room for me to live into what I was designed to do and to be and to grow. And so often we have to learn. And I think I would tweak the word selfish. Yes, we need to be selfish, but I think we have to be full of self-love and
Yes.
self-worth and self-understanding and compassion. Because what we do is we might do something that looks selfish, but then we beat ourselves up. So we negate the benefit.
Yes. I call it filling your bucket first. So fill your
Yes.
bucket first. In the morning, I tend to believe that if we do a little bit for ourselves in the morning, at least we've done that before we
Yes.
go and serve everyone around us. It's very common for a woman in perimenopause and menopause to have children and elderly parents. So we're
Ooh, yes.
sandwiching care between the two of them, and both incredibly valuable, worthy vocations. However, the time you have, which is why part of my program is on calendar, because we actually have to redefine our time. And if our time is spent partly on wellness, if we actually schedule our time for wellness, which doesn't always have to be exercise, but schedule you time first, then you can give it all away. And at the end of the day, you don't end up empty.
It's the whole proverbial, you put the big rocks in, and then when you put the big rocks in the jar first, then you can fill it up with all the little rocks and I don't mean that the other things are little, but we have to come to a point, don't you think, that we acknowledge that big rock that needs to go in there is taking care of our physical body, because it takes care of our mental and emotional body and our spiritual body.
Yes. Without our body, you won't be able to care for your parents and your children.
Right.
And you'll be sick. The approach that I have, the sleep, the stress, the calendar, the diet, and not the diet, the food and the exercise, those all together, you're going to be better able to care for everyone around you.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Okay, so we get going. I want to make sure we talk about your wellness wheel, because I think that we did, but I want you to be able to really explain it, because it is your beautiful approach. And I want you to make sure and I want to make sure our listeners can find you, follow you, support you, and learn from you, like I plan on doing. By the way, I already followed you, already friended you, except me. But no, seriously, tell us about this wellness wheel. It's your holistic approach. I want to make sure that it's a very clear. Ooh, I like it. Look at this.
I brought my little slide up. I love laminating. I've got a laminated machine. So this is my laminated version. So my wellness wheel, this is the foundation of my philosophy. Yes. I believe that when we combine, I start with sleep. Every person who comes through our doors or through working with me through Zoom, we start with sleep, because I'm convinced that when sleep is the foundation, it's the bottom of my triangle, the top being nutrition. So sleep is very important. And you go back to then stress resilience, and then we have calendar, and then we have movement and food. They work together. So when one is off, let's say food is off, how's my sleep going to be?
No bueno.
No bueno. If my stress is not checked, if I have no sense of how I can become stress resilient, if I have no sense of how my breath work can be my greatest advocate, right? If I have no sense of that I can slow down my pace through my day, then how's my sleep going to be? No bueno.
Correct.
And how's my movement going to be? And am I going to fill my time with wellness, little 1 to 5 minute snippets of wellness throughout my day? Probably not. I'm going to be in a hurry, and my food choices will not follow suit.
Oh, that's so
On
true.
the other side, though, when you are getting your sleep, you have more stress resilience. You respond more than you react. Fuel yourself with foods that are whole, that are good for you, that you know. And that's the same thing about food. Women know. They know what they need to be eating. Stop listening to Instagram. Movement, when you fuel yourself all day with movement and you put in some serious strength training, and then calendar, it all works together. When one is off, the others are off. When one is really strong, the other ones will follow suit. This is my philosophy.
I love that. So again, this is another plug for the YouTube channel. If you're on YouTube, you could see that.
Yeah.
However, I am going to put it in the show notes. So I have a link to that. I want women to be able to see that. And in my identity work, in my mastermind that I do, we talk about the wheel of life and we talk about all the different areas, but I just love the imagery of a wheel in general. Because if you are off in one area and that's a wheel on your car, it's going to be clunk, clunk, clunk. Your car's not going to run well. It's going to pull over to the side, or it's not going to even go. And I love what you said. I wanted to highlight this, Adrien, because so often we say, I can't sleep because I'm stressed. And I can't cook because I'm exhausted. But everything is so interconnected, because if you're sleeping well, chances are when you do go to do physical movement, you're not like, oh, I just can't get up off the couch. Oh, I'm putting my shoes on hurts. And I'm not mocking in any way, shape, or form. This is literally Christine in the last 24 hours, having moved my college kid. But it's interesting because it feels like there's a lot of like, if then. If you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well. If you're not sleeping well, then you're more stressed. But if you're stressed, you're probably not moving. And they really, I'm sorry, I'm making my crazy hand movements, but
it makes sense.
They're crossovers.
They're all crossover. And if you don't find time for them, which is why calendar is such an integral part of my program.
I love that.
We have to schedule it.
I tell people this a lot. It's not complicated, but it takes work.
It does.
And the beauty is in the simplicity of your approach.
Right.
It's not just the beauty. It's the beautiful thing about it is a simple approach. And we have to put our work boots on.
We do.
We can't. We have to show up for ourselves. And that comes from that place of self-love, of self-compassion, and of wanting to leave a legacy. You and I talked about that. Like, we're raising girls. What do we want to do? What kind of message do I want to give my 4 daughters about midlife? Best freaking decade ever.
Exactly.
Hard, but amazing.
Strong. And stronger every year. That is my message every year. Every birthday, I'm going to be stronger at 58 than I was at 57.
Oh, I love that. So do you do on your birthdays, do you do kind of that look back, look ahead sort of activity? Or is this just so ingrained in you that you just live it out?
I live it. I want to get as strong as possible. Listen, strong physically, just if we talk strong physically, right now as we're sitting here, our muscles are atrophying and our bones are becoming more, our bones are losing their healthy. I'm losing my menopause. So we know this. And we also know that bones become less flexible as we age. So not only can we nutritionally through foods supplement that, our muscles and our bones, we have to exercise.
Yes.
Because muscle is almost the greatest currency other than our brain that our bodies have.
100%.
We have, the longer we will live.
Okay, so ladies, let's talk about this. Whether you're perimenopausal, you're menopausal, or you're neither, that's okay too. It starts today. It starts today, and I'm so passionate about women taking care of their vessels because everything flows from that. And when we talk about muscle strength. My husband's a pharmacist, so he's very smart when it comes to all that sciencey medical stuff. That's why I went to law school, so I don't have to think about it. But now I'm really starting to think about it, Adrien, because he is doing a ton of lifting, and I used to do a lot of lifting. I'm really strong. You can't see this, but I mean, I'm no joke, you know?
Yeah, of course. You're an athlete.
Here's the thing though, this can also trick me because I can flex and have show big muscles, but I haven't been doing the work, Adrien. So you are convicting this woman. Like I'm doing the running and the walking, but I'm sitting here thinking I have to create a lifestyle of strengthening my muscles to support my frame.
You do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm on
Because
it,
you will live
girl.
longer. Yeah, you will live longer. You will not fall. We don't want to fall.
Oh
Women,
God, no.
the preponderance of women falling is twice the number of men.
Really? Why do you think that is? Are we just weak? Like we don't take care of our
We have
muscles?
less muscle. We have less muscle.
Okay.
And furthermore, when we fall, the chances of us falling again are very high.
Oh man.
So we have to get strong and stable and work on our balance and get strong and build those muscles, ladies. Now's the time.
100%. And Adrien, you just got me thinking because when I was running in college, I ran at the University of Iowa. So we had a very high level of intensity, but it was really different because I ran cross country, which was 5K, but I was a 800-meter runner and a miler in track. Very different weightlifting programs. And so as you're talking, I want to address what you said earlier about women who are afraid to bulk up. I
Yep.
can't relate to that because I frankly love my muscles, but I know a lot of women are like, I don't want to be bulky. And I honor that. I honor every woman's desire for her body shape. So here's what I wanted to say, and I want to get your opinion on this. When I was lifting for cross country, we did more reps, lighter weight, circuit style. And it created a different level of strength because when you see cross country runners, I mean, if you saw me, I'm 5'2", I'm definitely built like a miler. But when I was training weight wise for cross country, I was able to go fast, long distances, didn't have the bulk. But when it came to becoming a miler, I was benching 135 pounds and weighing 120. That's a little bit different. We're not saying that, right?
No, we're not. But also why not?
I mean, if you want to, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I mean, I challenge every woman I meet. It doesn't matter how old she is or her background in athletics. You can do a pull-up.
Yes.
Every woman can do a pull-up.
I love that.
Get there. It takes a lot of work to get there.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the best feelings you will ever literally have to get that chest over the bar. It's a great feeling.
So you work with women in all different fitness levels, right?
Oh, absolutely. I work with women who have had a fitness program for decades, and I have women who really didn't make it a priority, and now they are getting stronger than ever.
Tell me about, and you don't have to obviously give names, but tell me an example of a woman who came to you for menopause help for coaching, and you got her started on a fitness program. And tell me the success story. Give our listeners some idea of how does this play out in real people.
I will. I'm going to give her a fictitious name. Her name is Tammy.
I love Tammy.
And she has had 3 different pretty serious injuries. One was because of a biking accident where it was a very serious accident. And she had a traumatic brain injury. And she hurt, I think at that time, she's had knee, fibula, and the brain. Okay. This was a year and a half ago. She never stopped. She never stopped training.
Wow.
She was fit going in. Let's just say we know the more fit you are before any kind of accident, unfortunately they happen.
Yeah.
The easier your recovery is going to be.
100%.
We know this. Muscle again is our greatest currency. But she is lifting just as much as she did a year ago now.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Never stopped. As soon as she could, she was in a boot. She was in the studio with me. She's here in person, but she was in studio with me.
God, I want to be where you are. I just want to be in studio with you.
Zoom. I'm women over Zoom, so that's fine. But yeah, so it's about not giving up on yourself and not giving up because something goes awry. Or, oftentimes shoulder injuries are very common in women. And that is because in large part in perimenopause, it is your estrogen and your progesterone are doing a roller coaster ride. As you get to menopause, it's definitely a decline in estrogen. Okay. And that leads to joint pain, and leads to a lot of weak joints, namely the shoulder, because the shoulder is a
Really?
very vulnerable joint. And we're
Interesting.
also carrying bags. Like, so we're bringing our shoulder up.
Mm.
We're carrying tech all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting in front of tech,
Like right now.
right? And we're slouching. Our posture is not right. So what I tell women when they say, "Oh, I've got this in my shoulder," I'm like, "Okay, let's work it out." I have no problem with referring out to a physical therapist, chiropractor, massage therapist. I think we should all have that if we're going to start to train seriously,
Mm-hmm.
have that relationship in our lives. But it's not a license to stop exercising.
Oh, yes. That's so important.
And I hear that a lot. Oh, I'm just going to take a break. Why? Why?
Exactly. You have to, sometimes we have to tweak it, but to pull yourself out of it, you're guaranteeing that these natural phases of life are going to be harder and have more debilitating side effects, right?
Yes. But the stronger you are, the less likely you will have a shoulder injury.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
You will build all of the muscle around in the muscle group.
I love that. Oh my gosh. You just radiate so much positivity. And I want to address one more topic before we wrap up, and I want to be respectful of your time. But I was so tickled when we were talking and you were talking about your New York Times article. And I want to get this out because it was so funny. It was like, well, I think you said it was called Menopause is Having a Moment. Did I say that accurately?
Oh, no, I was on the Today Show.
Oh, the Today Show. My
Yeah.
apologies. My
Yeah. The New
apologies.
York
Oh,
Times was my kids when they were toddlers.
I'm
No,
sorry.
them.
But you were on the Today Show and you were also on the Drew Barrymore show, right?
I was not. I was on the Today Show.
Okay. Why do I have Drew Barrymore in my head?
However, I would not mind being on the Drew
Okay,
Barrymore
so
show.
Drew Barrymore, if you're listening, can you please book Adrien
Yeah,
Cotton?
because
Because
she is a wonderful megaphone for menopause.
that's probably why I wrote her name down, because we talked about that.
She has them.
So
Amazing.
you said that there's a movement afoot. Can you just describe like what the changes are that you're seeing in regards to menopause?
Oh, no question about the top is that we're able to have this conversation.
Yes.
We're able to have this conversation. We couldn't have this conversation 5 years ago without having a little bit of shame and hush associated with it.
So we're coming into the light.
We're coming into the light of this is a very serious and a very exciting period of your life. Why are we not talking about it? Half the world's population is going through it. So why are we not talking about it? So I think number one is we're starting to talk about it. Number two is there are going to be changes in the medical industry for sure. Doctors will be trained.
That's
By the
amazing.
time our daughters are going through it, doctors will be trained in how to treat a patient going through perimenopause and menopause, which are two different treatment plans. And it's not just prescribing an antidepressant, because that's mostly what women are given. Because yes, they are feeling a lot of anxiety, and sometimes an antidepressant is absolutely what they need, but sometimes it's not.
I love that. And I love that you are a voice for this. And I know when we talked before, we talked a lot about just breaking down the walls of topics that were taboo, and showing up authentically and being willing to say the quiet part out loud. Like being willing, say it out loud. But when we speak out truths that need to be spoken out, women then have courage to kind of step out of their little menopause cave and be like, me too. Me too. When it comes down to it, what I want our listeners to take away from this conversation is this is not a menopause conversation. That might be her expertise, but this wellness wheel is beautiful for creating healthy habits, patterns, and frameworks for you to be able to weather whatever storms life throws at you. Because I believe in life, you're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or getting ready to go in a storm, because that's called the human experience. So why not create these beautiful patterns that sets you up for success, even when things are challenging? We can say, oh my gosh, this is so awful. Or we can say, this is challenging, but thank God I got money in my bank. I got money in my physical bank, my emotional bank, my spiritual bank, and my calendar bank, because I've done the work. So sisters, do the work. And find Adrien. Tell our listeners where are all the places they can find you. And then I have one final question.
You bet. So they can find me at adriencotton.com. Adrien is Adrien, Cotton, COTTON.com. I'm on Instagram, Adrien M as in Mary Cotton, and then Adrien Cotton on LinkedIn.
Love it. Follow this woman. She is a bright light in what we used to think of as a dark time, and it doesn't have to be, and it shouldn't be. And the good news is we can control what goes on between our ears, and we get to decide how we frame our human experience. So I want to close out with a question that I shamelessly ripped off from Jen Hatmaker, one of my favorite podcasters. I've tried to think of different ways to ask this question and make it my own, but girl has it nailed. So I'm just stealing it. It's a question from Barbara Brown Taylor, and it's what you can answer any way you want, by the way. Happy, funny, silly, or serious. Doesn't matter. What is saving Adrien's life right now? So what is saving your life right now?
Oh, such a good question. I have decided to slow down.
Ooh.
So I'm slowing down and noticing things around me. I go through the same challenges every other woman does. I may teach it, but I'm having every once in a while I have to check back in and say, what's going on with my body? And I needed to slow down my pace up until about a month ago. So I'm really slowing down my breath work. I'm trying to slow down my pace of which I speak. I'm trying to slow down my driving.
Oh, too far, Adrien.
Yeah, but I'm slowing it down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a really beautiful process. It's incredibly helpful for my stress resilience. I can tell you I'm feeling much less stressed.
I love that. And I love you.
No, I love you too, girl. I mean, I'm telling you, we were meant to be. We're sisters in strength.
I mean, we really are. We really are. So everybody, please follow my dear friend and get into her orbit, because she really does brighten the lights in every room she enters. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wasn't Adrien amazing? I am just, when you meet someone and you just are so similar, there's like this synchronicity in your messages. It's really hard to stop the conversation. And so I hope that you will follow Adrien Cotton in all the places and learn from her. She is just such a bright light. Menopause does not have to be the thing that takes us down. Perimenopause does not have to control our lives. We get to control how we live our lives. Go look at her wellness wheel. It's 5 areas of our life that we can concentrate on that are all so interwoven. And she does a beautiful job of shepherding women through those different stages and phases and choices. So make sure you follow her. And while you're at it, join the Girl Out of Order Facebook community. We have a lot of exciting things coming this summer. And lastly, on June 18th, 2024, I am launching my Own Your Identity Mastermind. It is an 8-week course, and I'm partnering with my friend Dawn Taylor from the UK. She's running a European version. I'm doing a North American version, and then we're going to be coming together on Sundays as a European North American collective. And we're going to be working on some beautiful parts of reclaiming our amazing identities, owning it, and building compelling lives from that place of deep knowing who we are and what we value most. Keep an eye out on all my socials. Keep an eye out in the Girl Out of Order Facebook community for the announcement that is coming up next week. And I'm going to tell you all the things and how to get yourself signed up, enrolled, and ready to go. And for now, just keep being a girl out of order, because the world needs what only you can provide. Love you, girl.